You joining us. We're just a couple minutes early, but our next presenter has a very impressive long bio, so we'll take the extra time for me to read through his full bio here. Richard Minnis, hopefully I'm saying that right. He's going to be presenting about the Fish and Wildlife Services National Conservation Training Center. Well, Rich is Chief of Applied Landscape Conservation and Policy in the Division of Training at the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Services National Conservation Training Center in Shepherdstown, West Virginia. He oversees the training within the curriculum lines of human dimensions, conservation policy, refuge land policy, decision analysis, and ecological adaptation. Before coming to Fish and Wildlife in 2010, Rich spent 4 years at USDA APHIS in the DC headquarters and was a professional of wildlife ecology and wildlife fisheries and aquaculture and pathobiology population medicine departments at Mississippi State University for 12 years. Rich has worked at the human-wildlife livestock interface for most of his career, dealing with both the epidemiological and partner relationships at local, regional, and government levels. Rich has conducted research on a variety of taxa on 4 continents, including waterfowl in South America, mountain gorillas in Africa, tree squirrels in Malaysia, and numerous native and invasive species in North America. Rich received his BS and MS from Michigan State University and his PhD from Mississippi State University. He has taught courses all around the globe related to wildlife ecology, health and management, and human-dominated ecosystems. With that, I will hand it off to Rich.
That's a mouthful.
Sure is.
All right, are you able to see?
Yep, looks good.
Perfect, perfect. All right, well, thank you. Thank you for inviting me here. I appreciate it. We don't often get to come out to state level TWS meetings, so this is really kind of nice to get back to our roots of where we come from. But as we say, I am Rich Minnis at the National Conservation Training Center, and I have been asked to come out and give you a little understanding of who we are. A lot of people don't even know we exist, and what we do, and how you can partake in the different offerings that we have there at NCTC. So first off, for those of you who have never been there, NCTC has been around since 1997. It is a little over 500-acre walking campus that is self-contained, which means we have dormitories that you come in and stay at. We have our own classrooms, laboratories, cafeteria, gym, and of course, a bar. Got to have all the essentials, you know, where you're at. We actually have 225 guest rooms there, so we can house up to, in some cases, more than 225 people, because we do have some double rooms. And we have over 300 staff on site at NCTC. Now, to give you an understanding of what we do, I need to step back and look at the Fish and Wildlife Service. I know many of you work with the Fish and Wildlife Service, or at least have associations with us there in South Dakota. And you probably heard this, that our mission is to work with others to conserve, protect, and enhance fish, wildlife, and plants and their habitats for the continuing benefit of the American people. Now, again, this makes sense because we are needing all of you. Just as Danielle was saying, she needs help with her amphibian studies. We need all of you to help us in meeting our goal, and that's preserving basically everything for the future. Now at NCTC, our job is basically to work with all of you to meet our mission. And specifically, we're train, develop, and inspire not only Fish and Wildlife Service employees, but the broader conservation community as a whole. And doing this, we do this through state-of-the-art programs, learning resources, and other online or face-to-face training components. So that's who we are. We are open to everybody. A lot of people do not know that you can come as a conservation professional to the NCTC. And so because of that, you really don't know what we have. So I kind of want to give you a little view into what we offer at NCTC and point out a few things that may be of interest to you guys. So the easiest way to actually figure out what we have is we have something we produce we call our course guide. It's a comprehensive view of everything we do. And if you see this little wheel here, these are the kind of the areas that we go through. But it's a smart brochure that basically covers all of our different aspects. Now I have a link here, and I'm going to show this link a couple more times. And also I've given this presentation to Julie, so she's more than welcome to pass this on to anybody who's interested. But if you look at our, what we call, unimaginatively, our wheel, we actually have a lot of lines that we call curriculum lines that we cover at NCTC. Everything from leadership to communications to all the different technological aspects that you guys deal with on a daily basis. And again, I'm just going to pick a handful of these to go through to show you kind of the things that we have, and then give you a little bit of view into how you can get a hold of some of these if you're interested. So again, many lines, and we have a lot of habitat-based courses. You guys talked a lot of different things here, and it covers a lot of ground. A lot of people talk about our fisheries courses, but we have a lot of wildlife courses. Identification courses that we have advanced plant ID. We have a lot of those things. Invasive plant management. We have training in rights of way management. How do you manage our rights of way for the best habitat for a variety of wildlife species? So again, you can see there's a number of these courses. The other thing I will note in here, we set up our training guide to allow you to find what level of courses you need. As you can see in this particular slide, we've got introductory, intermediate, and advanced courses in the different columns that you have in there. So there's a lot of things in here that might be of value to the folks here on the call, on this particular meeting. As well as the wildlife call side, you just heard a call or a talk by Danielle on citizen science. If you actually look over at the advanced courses, the bottom one, it's implementing a successful citizen science effort. We basically cover in that course a lot of the things that Danielle talked about. How do you set up a successful program where you're going to use folks from the amateur world to collect data that's going to be useful for you? So it would just seem very appropriate that we had her right before this to be able to call out that particular class. Some of the other things that you will see in here, we do a lot with landscape scale conservation, planning on bigger pictures. Danielle, I'm going to call you out again. Thank you. You look at the introductory classes, one of them we have is survey methods for frog abnormalities. Again, an online course that really helps you understand how to survey for frog abnormalities and other amphibian abnormalities as we go through there. Now, we do a lot more than just the kind of the habitat out in the field techniques. We have all the geospatial side. I know as a professor at Mississippi State, I taught a lot of GIS courses. I know the value of GIS. It's pretty amazing what it can do for us in helping in our planning and sampling designs. So we do offer a lot of GIS courses as well. And along with that, our statistics and modeling. I think most of you on here now have had to deal with a lot of different studies and understanding, trying to do your analyses or trying to model the data to get predictions as to what's happening and where. Again, we offer a whole lot of these available to everybody, because when I came through school, there wasn't a lot of these in there. I mean, there was a lot of stats, but the modeling side was really limited. So a lot of this is based in the use of R. We basically, it's a freeware data analysis package. And so we function all of our courses around that freeware software. You guys will also know that the non-biological side of things is very important too. In this case, I'm talking about communications. You have a couple talks today on citizen science. Citizen science is only successful if you can talk to people, and all of our data is only as good as how we can get that information out to folks. And that's across the board for everything we do. Communications is huge, not just for what you guys are doing, but for all of us. So we have a lot of different classes, and some of them are really interesting. Things like distilling your message down. How do you actually communicate science by distilling it down? We have one that says, don't be such a scientist, actually taught by the Alan Alda Foundation. That really gives you a different way of how to look at and present information to people outside the scientific world so they understand what you're doing and why. Because as we know, trying to get to buy into the public is very, very important for all we do. And also because of that, the human side is so important. We carry a lot of human dimensions courses. In human dimensions here, we talk about the idea of using social science data to make natural resource decisions. How do you bring in people's attitudes, values, beliefs? How do you take into their culture into making decisions so that they support those decisions that you're trying to make to move things forward? Now, many of you, and I unfortunately, I only recognize a couple folks on this call, but some of you may work in areas where you have visitor centers or you're dealing with public coming into lands that you work on. We do the same. We obviously have the National Wildlife Refuge System, where we really are interested in making sure visitors have a very good experience. They want to keep coming out. We want them to be part of the natural resources. So we carry a lot of visitor services courses, again, that you can participate in and be part of. And a lot of these courses are actually even more enhanced when we have folks like yourselves coming into our courses, because it is then a combination of the federal side and local folks together having conversations about how we can do different programs to bring in the public or to actually accomplish either of our missions that we're working on. And just a couple others. Again, I'm going to try to keep going through here. Making decisions, being very clear on how you make decisions, being very transparent is huge, especially if you're in any type of government agency. You really got to make sure that you have documented everything and how you make decisions. And that's big for the federal system. So we have a whole system on how you actually make decisions clearly. We teach that to our folks to make high quality decisions and have these decisions well documented in what they're doing. And of course, we all have authorities that we function under. You know, what gives us the ability to do all the things we do is very important. And we offer a whole lot of that. A lot of this obviously is for the federal level, but a lot of this impacts everybody at the local level as well. Things such as interagency consultations with the Fish and Wildlife Service or Section 7 of the Endangered Species Act. That's very important for you guys when you're working on projects of how do you function with us and how do we function with you to allow you to do your research, but to not have impacts on endangered species out there. So again, more things that we cover and offer at NCTC. And the last line, no, I'm sorry, I got one more line after this I'm going to talk about. Ecological adaptation, or the curriculum line formerly known as climate change. 4 years ago, we had a little bit of an issue that we had to adjust the name of that curriculum line, and I will say no more about that. But we are in a serious situation where we're trying to plan and understand how climate's impacting all that we do. And we have a whole series of courses that help in the scenario planning and just a basic understanding of what climate change really means as it relates to wildlife. And then the last line is simply safety. Safety is another area that we cover a lot on. Things that might be of interest to the folks on this call are our motorboat operations. You're out in the field a lot of times, you're sampling for different things. You have to take a canoe, you have to take a boat, however you're getting to where you're going. We do a tremendous amount of safety training on how to be out in these bits of equipment safely, how to operate them safely, how to make sure if you have issues out there, you can deal with it. So again, we cover a huge variety of things at NCTC, and it's pretty amazing the breadth that we deal with. Now, one of the things that I would also like to cover just in a moment is the fact that we don't just offer single individual classes that don't relate to one another. A lot of our classes have a relationship to one another. And we have what we call pathways to help you get to being able to do a specific task. So some of you who, especially if you're outside of school, you may have to be learning to do something new and different. Need to figure out how to get that skill set built up. Sometimes we actually have pathways to help you with that. And the one you're looking at up here is species distribution modeling and conservation design. A lot of our work we deal with was how do we look at the distribution of species across large landscapes and develop plans. And so we actually have a pathway, and what you're seeing here is a pathway to be able to be very proficient at that particular skill set. And so some of the others we have in here, you can see population modeling, data manipulation, species status and trends assessment, etc. Now, you're probably asking, well, what's really available to you? And everything I've showed you is basically available to you. Some of it is even free. And this is why I put this in here, is these are all free webinars that we offer up that you could partake in. Just sign up for them. You see the link here at our webinars, and it's no cost to you to actually participate in these. And we actually have more series than this. These are just some I brought forward to kind of give you some idea of what you can work in. But bat acoustics, that's a big one these days. Surveying bats through acoustics. Forest ecology and management. How are you actually managing your forest for wildlife, etc. So there's a bunch of them that we have available. Now, a lot of the other courses that you saw actually do have a tuition fee. A lot of them are online, so you can be taking them now where you're at. And we do have the campus, so we have face-to-face courses. Again, those all have a tuition associated with them, but relatively speaking, they're pretty inexpensive. So with that, how do you actually get into a course at NCTC? We have a system we call DOI Talent. That's where we register for all of our courses. It's not a real difficult thing to get into, but we are the government, so we like to make things difficult. Not intentionally, but we do it. But we do have a lot of help, and you can always reach out to us for any help you have getting in there and figuring out how to register for any of these courses. So with that, I think I did my 15 minutes and given you 5 for questions. Do you have any questions for me? And that was a lot of information in a short time period. I'm sorry about that.
Thank you, Richard. Are there any questions? Got plenty of time.
You really do have a quiet group. You know that, Kate.
I'm seeing any questions in the chat. Last chance, any questions for Richard?
Well, I hope some of you get an opportunity to come to NCTC. It's a wonderful campus. Our cafeteria is just phenomenal. We say they have a 5-pound weight gain for every class you take. But it's a great place to be. So hopefully we'll see some of you there.
Great. Well, thank you for coming to speak with us. I for one, have never been familiar with your training centers. This is great information to hear and may consider partaking in the future. So thank you. All right. Our next